Hi, and welcome to our monthly event, AWS News and Announcements. We're Thinkport, we're a consulting company which helps German enterprises with Silicon Valley technologies and especially with cloud technologies. And we also share our knowledge with you, everything that we have learned, everything that we came across. And usually, first of all, we talk about news, announcements from AWS, and then we have a look shortly at some particular service from AWS. We look what is it, what is used for, is it useful, for which purposes, and so on. So let's go. And the first minor thing, but nevertheless probably quite important for some of us, now you can use Secrets Manager or your secrets in multi-region mode. So AWS replicates your secrets across different regions. You also have lifecycle management, and it's pretty convenient. For example, you can have your password, and this password rotates periodically. And in connection with AWS KMS, for example, it's incredibly secure. So you can basically encrypt your password with KMS key, which is in turn also rotatable, and your password is also rotatable. And if you have your services in multiple regions, so you can have kind of your master secret region, and other regions will be replicated. So the next, probably also minor thing, so RDS now supports the new version of PostgreSQL. It's the 13th version. I won't go deeper because it's pretty obvious thing, but good to know, maybe for those of us who use RDS. Then one funny thing, you can now write COBOL code in your Lambdas. Some guy just published Lambda COBOL custom runtime. So I remind you that Lambda supports now this custom runtime. So it's basically Docker images, custom Docker images that you can upload and use basically your custom runtimes, anything, any environment, any programming languages, and write your Lambda code with it. So yeah, now you can write Lambdas with COBOL. Or you can migrate banks, Frankfurt banks to serverless. Right. AKS, new AKS version. So nothing special, but probably as far as many companies migrate to Kubernetes, it's also an important announcement. Good to know that now we have 19th version. Right. So so far all the news, not so many because we live in that post-reinvent world when all the news, all the new features were announced at reInvent in November, December, and now we have just minor upgrades and releases. So I would pass over to Rodion, and let's talk a bit about AWS organizations and Tower Control as a service. So Rodion, please.
Well, so I would like to talk about, as Roman said, about AWS Control Tower. First of all, I would like to tell what it does, what it is used for, its features, and in the end, would like to show a couple of examples where it could be used, integrated with other services. So AWS Control Tower creates an abstraction or orchestration layer that combines and integrates the capabilities of several other AWS services, including AWS organizations, single sign-on, and service catalog. So it is tightly connected first with AWS organizations. It is not that bad to say that it is a self-service tool to configure an AWS organizations correctly. So before moving on, so AWS organization is an account management service enabling to consolidate multiple AWS accounts into organization entities that is centrally managed. And as you can see here, all the accounts that are part of organizations are shown in this service. So here is it is organized in so-called organizational units, which are basically entities created within an organization to group accounts for governance. To further simplify the management of accounts, we can group them in one or more organizational units and administer all the accounts in these units together. And as you can see here, we have 3 organizational units. First was originally a Thinkport, and there's 2 more were created after setting up a so-called landing zone. This is a landing zone is basically so-called well-architected multi-account AWS environment based on best practices blueprints and enable governance using security. Here is the organizational units of Thinkport. Then this is a core with 2 additional accounts with separate emails that have to be provided, which were not used before within AWS. They are used for this log archive and audit. And the last one is a custom for some custom setup. So moving back to AWS Control Tower, as I said, landing zone is a well-architected multi-account AWS environment. So by setting up landing zone, one needs, like it is written here, like 60 minutes, but in fact it took me about 10 minutes. And in the end, you can see these notifications with some summary, short information, and how many guardrails you have. And here we have in a control tower, under the guidance on control tower, we have also the same organizational units as we saw in AWS organizations, and so-called guardrails, which are governance rules that you can enable on organizational units to enforce policies or detect violations. All of these compliance and operation guardrails could be chosen from a predefined list. So we can choose one, and by default, only mandatory with static control guardrails could be applied. So, and we can attach some arbitrary guardrails to our organizational unit. So we have another feature, so-called users and access, which this feature is used for managing user identities and single sign-on to provide users with federated access across accounts. Here we can see all of the accounts within organization as well, with 2 additional ones, with audit and log archive. And as you can see, there are only 3 enrolled accounts. So in this case, Thinkport is used as a management account, as a root, used for billing for all accounts in an organization, and for creating new accounts, and also to manage and access to them. A log archive is used as a repository of logs of API activities and resource configurations from all accounts. And lastly, audit is a restricted account for security and compliance teams to gain read and write access to all accounts. So here I chose, like as an example, log archive accounts, and here we see that like all of the guardrails that are predefined for it. That is like, so to say, main feature of a control tower, that everything comes from the box, like according to best practices. And last but not least is so-called account factory. With the account factory, one can provision new accounts and enroll existing ones. Also, it is possible to standardize special configurations for creating multiple accounts. And here For example, we can integrate AWS Control Tower service into other infrastructure, and we can enroll existing AWS accounts into this quite easily with using Account Factory. And the second example, we can create multiple accounts within AWS Control Tower and integrate this with other already existing and well-known and understood services like CloudFormation and S3 buckets and Lambda and DynamoDB. I don't want to just dive deep, but just to give you an overview how it is possible to integrate it with other services. And if you are interested enough, there are references where you can find all the available information, and hopefully it will be useful for us in the future. Thank you so much, and I'm ready to answer questions if you have.
I have one short question. So you mentioned this guardrails, I think they are called, right? Can we write our own custom guardrails, or we have only these predefined rules?
Yes, and they are predefined. So there is a list. There is a list of all guardrails in AWS Control Tower. You can choose guardrails, and no, it's not possible to integrate your own, only from the predefined list.
We also had the topic about service control policies. Maybe we eventually will talk about it. So I'm just interested if it's possible somehow to write these service control policies. So it's basically these kind of rules that you assign to your entire organization, and which is applied cross account policies. So it would be interesting how it works on the level of control tower.
Well, I researched, and it is written that it's a predefined list, and also the guardrails that already with a status enforced, it's not possible to cancel them.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, and see you next time.